My name is Emily Buckley, and this is my video for the Journal of Meeting Objectives module by module, and it is for my 4430 nursing course over my IPP project. So my goal was to educate peers and other viewers with a PowerPoint presentation about the importance of having well-established new graduate programs to aid in the transition of a new graduate nurse. The viewers will also be taught about the correlation between satisfaction in the first 1 to 2 years of nursing and how new graduate programs increase satisfaction and therefore decrease the chances of turnover. I will assess viewers with post-test to establish if proper teaching has been conveyed. The goal will be 3 to 4 questions out of 4 questions answered correctly by peers. The SMART goal will be met if peers can answer 2 questions about retention rate and new graduates and 1 question about attributes of new graduate programs and preceptors. I presented the PowerPoint to my peers as well as a nurse manager and coworkers at my facility due to my hospital recently adjusting our new graduate program approximately 6 months ago. 3 out of 4 of my coworkers were able to answer all 4 questions correctly, while 1 answered 3 correctly. I believe that my teaching was effective and that my goal was achieved. While completing this IPP project and other assignments over the 6 modules, I believe I have met QSIN competencies. In Module 1, in this course, I reviewed the required assignment and made a decision to do my project over the topic of new graduate programs. My intended audience would ideally be hospitals, kind of like mine, that may be a little bit smaller or maybe don't have a set new grad program, and so these would benefit the most from this information, but it also is beneficial for my peers and my coworkers to hear about this too, because of course change happens. It can happen with anybody, so but that would ideally be the intended audience. Now with the COVID restrictions, of course, we were kind of limited. And I did decide to do a PowerPoint over a physical presentation, like with the boards, because I thought that a PowerPoint with the voiceover would achieve an easier teaching process. And I lean towards this topic because I was recently a new grad, about 1.5 years of experience so far, so I can directly relate to the hardships and how new graduate programs can be so beneficial in helping decrease stress, anxiety, and allowing you to build your nursing skills over time. New graduate programs not only aid the new nurse in their transition period, but it also aids the hospital as well in the retention of nurses long term. And then as I dove into more evidence-based articles, I found that not only were the new nurses having difficulties in transitioning into their role, but that the first year to 2 years proved to be the highest turnover time in a nurse's career, even more so than in older nurses as I had originally expected. I continued to compile articles to start off my research and to lay the foundation for my project as Module 1 progressed. During Module 2, I continued to find resources relating to the topic of satisfaction in new graduate programs versus satisfaction without one. I also expanded my research into different styles of new graduate programs, comparing similarities and differences and how that might affect the new nurse. I also discovered a website called Slides Go that offered different formats that were not your basic themes for PowerPoint. I picked out a theme that was eye-catching but was not too busy, because not being able to be in person to teach my peers proves difficult to see how engaged the viewers are, so finding a good theme can help keep someone engaged. My coworkers comment on the graphics and enjoying the PowerPoint's colors after I showed them. In Module 3, I began to lay the bones of my PowerPoint by creating a table of contents, condensing my topics, and sorting through my articles to find which pieces of information would work best and most concisely with my topic. I created 1 to 2 blank slides under each of the categories and linked the citations that went with each topic to the slides. This process allows me to stay within my topic and to make sure I'm covering all the areas I wanted to in the particular subject. In Module 4 and 5, I began to fill in the information on the slide and add the meat to the bones, or more substantial parts of the presentation. I created my works cited page and my post-test questions. I also took this time to work on the graphics and make adjustments to the color scheme, sizes, and the color of the font to make sure it was visually pleasing and easy for viewing. In the beginning of Module 6, I had some issues at first in attempting to figure out how to voice over, but did some research and learned how to record audio in my PowerPoint and set up my voiceover to automatically play as each slide progressed. I did find it difficult to record and had to re-record several times to get my points across or to make sure I efficiently went over the information. I did not mind recording though, because if you messed up a sentence, you could always start over, which can be less intimidating than presenting in person sometimes. I showed the PowerPoint to my nurse manager and coworkers due to the recent new graduate program changing our facility, and posted the IPP PowerPoint to the discussion board. I am now completing my journal entry on completing objectives through this course and will turn it into the Dropbox. The questions in my post-test are as follows. Studies have found that the majority of nurses that have exited their job had worked for blank before quitting. The options are 6 to 8 months, less than a year, 12 to 24 months, a year to 2 years, 5 to 7 years, or D, 8 years plus, or E, none of the above. B is the correct answer, and 4 out of 4 answered correctly. And the next question for number 2 is, after this amount of time, blank nurses were found to have more commitment to their jobs and less likely to quit. A, 6 to 12 months, B, 3 years, C, 5 years, or D, 7 years. And the answer is C. And 3 out of 4 nurses answered correctly, so 75%. The third question is, all of the following are important for a preceptor to incorporate when teaching a new graduate except A, student needs, B, teaching environment, C, broadening responsibilities, D, time processing, or E, communication. D, time processing. Not to be confused with time management. I've just made up the term time processing. And 4 out of 4 nurses answered that correctly. And then the last question is, what do all new graduate programs have? A, scheduled classes, B, rotation on different units, C, in-class work 3 months before working on floor, D, both B and C, or E, all programs vary. And the answer to that is E. 4 out of 4 answered that correctly with all programs vary. And before the end of Module 7, I will record a video and upload it describing how I completed my objectives, the goal of my presentation, the steps in creating the PowerPoint, post-test, and the results and outcomes. I will submit this journal entry that has my references and step-by-step details of my completion of the IPP project. And after that is where I list my references. Thank you.